Hello to you, Hellions, angels, and beyond. I'm Sol, the angelic Grim Reaper in training, and I hope you had a good and sexy day today. Why don't you get cozy and let us wrap up the day with a nice little bedtime story where we venture into a world of pirates and look into the past of a certain boy whose dream is to be the pirate king. Now do me a favor and close your eyes and get so comfy so we can have a good night together while I read you this little story. I'd replicate your pain, a story by Soulemnity about the three brothers Luffy, Ace, and Sabo, and the discovery that Luffy has an interesting immunity to bullets. Hey, look at that. Luffy grinds to a halt, quickly veering off to the right of the fractured path, hopping over protruding slabs of concrete like he hops over tree roots. Sabo nearly bumps into his twin as Ace comes to an abrupt stop in an attempt to keep Luffy in his sight. Understandable. Luffy never thinks to look back until he's already too far ahead. A little warning next time, Sabo grumbles anyways, just because they're brothers. Ace rolls his eyes, but ultimately seems to decide that following Luffy is more productive than having a silly argument in the middle of an edge-town street. A few steps ahead, Luffy is crouched down, legs tapped up against his chest as he peers closely at something on the ground. It's the sort of position he assumed when looking at a neat bug or plant. Ace huffs in exasperation, but falls into step beside Sabo as they approach. Luffy, it seems, has forgotten to elaborate on whatever got his attention, so Sabo asks, "What is it?" Your little brother perks up, tending to blink at them before he smiles wide. "Look," he points at something in front of him. "Isn't it pretty? I've never seen anything like it before." It turns out to be, when Sabo and Ace lean over to look, a small cluster of three little flowers nestled between the street and a cracked wall. The middle has vibrant purple petals, while the ones on the left and right are yellow and white, respectively. They're not very big, and the yellow and white flowers are a little drooped, like they're struggling to grow. The purple flower, however, stands tall in between them. "Oh," says Ace, "I've never seen these either." Luffy runs his fingers over the petals, unusually careful. "They're pretty, right?" "Very pretty," Sabo agrees. There's a subtle shift of warmth at his side as Ace straightens his back up. When Sabo glances over, Ace is looking up and down the street, then up at the dilapidated buildings as if searching for something. "What?" Ace looks at them again, one eyebrow raised. "Don't flowers need sun?" He says, more of a statement than anything else. You'd think in a shithole like this they wouldn't even come out of the ground, but they're not even wilting. That's true. In the spot they're in, close to the entrance of Edgetown, targeted by tall, old-looking bars and pubs on one side and half-crumbled walls on the other, there's little soil that would be good for things like colorful flowers to grow. Hell, any soil good enough to grow anything probably stops back where the forest meets the terminal. Starting from right here, it's mostly paved streets regardless of whether or not they're cracked or polished. Sabo would guess the only reason Hightown has any dirt and grass at all is because it's purposely manicured, kept bright and green and pretty, and all places suited to their preference. And yet, here, these three little flowers are blooming despite it all. Despite their environment, their world being completely against them. If he's right, Sabo thinks he's never seen anything like them before. "Well," says Ace, tapping his pipe against his shoulder. "Pretty interesting, but we should get going. We don't want to get caught up in whatever the weird is around here during today." "Right," Sabo readjusts his grip on his own pipe. "Remember what we said, Luffy? People are ugly here, and not just in appearance." Luffy pounced at that, but he obediently lets the flowers go and rises to his feet. Sabo can almost swear they settle a little lower than they'd been before. "They're just as ugly as Hightown," Luffy grumbles, and they can't really disagree with that, can they? Ace knocks their little brother's hat back and shakes his head from side to side, smirking at the indignant yelps he gets in response. With a roll of his eyes, Sabo starts walking. "That doesn't mean we should give them a reason to start anything," he says plaintively. He trips on nothing. Ace, when Sabo whirls around to glare at him, crosses his arm behind his head innocently. What? Asks Ace, entirely fake. Our existence is a reason to them. I thought you were supposed to be smart. Fuck you. Both of his brothers laugh, and Sabo can only sigh. Not nearly as annoyed as he ought to be. There's really no point in trying to tell them. I hate it when you're right. Ace grins and extends his pinky. Best behavior. Promise. Best behavior, my ass. Luffy, as he is wont to do, runs ahead with a cackle when it becomes clear they're not going any faster. Ace and Sabo rush to follow, shoving at each other's shoulders all the while. You said not to give them a reason. This is me trying. Screw you. Sue me for wanting to keep trouble until after we're done eating. A loud giggle bounces down the street. Ace and Sabo are so weird. Luffy, slow down. Treble, they discover, does not like to give them a break. Around halfway through Edgetown, after another successful dine and dash, Ace embarrassingly eats shit on a jagged piece of sidewalk next to a bar. In his defense, he was busy looking over his shoulders to make sure Luffy was still safe and secure on Sabo's back, since he'd lost one of his sandals, and neither of them wanted him walking around Edgetown's roads full of broken slabs and hazardous objects as they are. It's basically asking to cut Luffy's feet open. He turned at a bad time, and his foot got caught in a bit of concrete that was raised from past damage. He scrapes his knees as he goes, a bit of his elbow too, but it's not terrible. He's lucky he didn't stab his foot while he tripped in the first place. Nothing a band-aid won't fix, Sabo declares after forcing Ace to sit down against the wall so he could inspect it. He rocks back on his heels, lips pursing. We're supposed to clean it, but we don't have any water. Ace waves him off. I can deal with it until we get back to the treehouse. It doesn't even hurt that bad. Sabo frowns. I don't know, he says slowly. You know how dirty it is here. We shouldn't let it sit in here for too long. I can feel a bunch of tiny pebbles poking my feet, Luffy says in agreement. He's looking down at his remaining sandal held in his hand sulkily. Neither Ace nor Sabo point out that after the thing Luffy's feelings are most likely not pebbles, but Sabo does nudge him forward where the pavement is a little smoother. Voices filter through a cracked open window above their heads, loud and grating, just like all the other drunk men they've met. Well, it's not like there's anything we can do, says Ace. He gestures to the window behind him, arching an eyebrow. You think we'll get anything from here? Sabo sighs, looking disappointed. Not with all those guys we won't. It's just water, right? Luffy asks. His hat falls back as he peers up at the window, catching on the string around his neck. Why can't we go in and get it? You know how the bars are around here, Lou. Half the time they're waiting for any excuse to start a fight, even with kids, Sabo explains. It's something they've told Luffy several times, even though they often try to avoid hanging around bars. The only bar Luffy has experience with is Makinos. He was lucky any bad man he could have met there was easy to deal with. It's nothing like that here. Luffy understands, for the most part, but sometimes he just can't seem to grasp why storming in with or without confidence won't always work. It doesn't help that he holds such a deep trust towards them. He's got into the habit of thinking that as long as his big brothers are around, everything will be fine. Something weird and fuzzy always squirms around in Ace's chest whenever that happens, hindering underneath all that anger and worry. Unfortunately, that faith is also wonderful at challenging their patience, especially when Luffy purposely puts himself into those kinds of positions like, Luffy, get back here, damn it. Ace needs water. Every bar has water. Ace doesn't need water, actually, because he hardly feels the sting in his knees and elbow at all when he scrambles to his feet and lunges forward to yank Luffy back by the arm. What he does need, though, is to punch Luffy in the face. Luffy yelps in surprise, stumbling back, and Ace can see Sabo wince at the noise. His little brother has always been terrible at keeping quiet whenever they're out in the open. He is getting better at it during hunting, but that's it. And Ace begrudgingly admits, if they'd sat in that spot for any longer, they would have been discovered anyways, because, of course, they can never have a peaceful outing for once in their lives. What even is peaceful? Ace thinks bitterly. I sure as hell don't know. The door to the bar, for some stupid reason, is wide open, so the three of them are entirely visible. They stumble and trip and end up on the floor. Chatter that had already been loud gets louder, but Ace can distinctly hear some of the nearby conversations die out. If this weren't a bar and they weren't facing a bunch of alcoholic men, Ace would be spitting all the curses he can think of out loud instead of in his head. The hell? Says a raspy voice. A man with a shaggy ponytail and clothes a little too short leans against the doorway, cigarette hanging from his lips. For these brats. Quickly, Sabo wriggles free and holds out his hands for Ace and Luffy to take. Guys like these are infamous for their short tempers, and they both know it. Sabo tucks his pipe against his back, opens his mouth to speak. Ace needs water. You got any, old man? Fuck. Ace stiffens, gritting his teeth, staring up at the tall man. Sabo looks vaguely horrified. Fuck. Because Ace recognizes this guy. He recognizes this bar. He's picked a fight here before and dragged Sabo right along with him. A dangerous, appraising sort of glint crawls its way into the man's eyes, and Ace knows that they've been recognized too. Hey, the man says. The single word has them tensing. I think I know you too. No, you don't, Ace almost says, but loses the chance when Luffy swings his arm and nearly hits him in the stomach with his pipe. Yeah, we need water. Can we get some? Luffy asks, painfully obvious. The man laughs, a rough, cruel sound. His friends must have realized who he's talking to because chuckling echoes from inside the bar as well. Water, you say? The smirk on his face is mean, a clear warning. I think I can help you with that. Sorry, Sabo cuts in before Luffy can reply, play, but not so much that it's obvious. He places a hand on Luffy's arm and ducks his head in an attempt to keep his eyes hidden by the brim of his hat. We didn't mean to interrupt anything. We're fine. Now, if you'll excuse us. Quicker than any alcoholic has the right to be, the man grabs Sabo by the arm and throws him inside. Ace jolts, muscles tensing to strike, but the rage doesn't even get time to fully form before the hand is being aimed at him. Rough fingers gripping tight enough to bruise, and Ace is thrown in alongside his twin. Somewhere behind them, Luffy shrieks. Nice catch, Cliff. Isn't it? They were delivered right to our doorstep. There's blood dripping down his knee, stinging dully, but the script at the start of all this is nothing but a faraway thought now. Ace is on his feet within seconds of hitting the ground. Staying down is asking him to stomp your face in. Instinctively, Ace hunches just a little. He didn't even realize he was doing it until Sabo presses in close on his right, causing him to straighten back up. The man, Cliff, he remembers now, steps closer, bringing him into the light. His hair burns a dark red. His smile, when Ace and Sabo fail to cower, only seems to stretch wider. We have a score to settle with you two, he says lowly. You don't have to settle shit. Ace shoots back, and he really, really needs to learn how to bite his tongue. This time, the smile fails. Wood creaks as the patrons shift. The tension in the room grows thick, threatening to suffocate him. But Ace does not back down. He's already dug himself this far. He'd have preferred it if his brothers weren't here, but they're just as hard-headed as he is, as much as Ace hates to admit. Sabo is a reassuring presence at his back. Cliff sneers, the expression of a man recalling how he got bested by a little kid. It fits much better on his face than the smile had. You think this is funny? He snaps. That brand of anger that comes from inebriation. You better watch it, you little son of a bitch. That'll get you killed one day. Ace's rage flares. You. Leave my brothers alone. Small hands latch onto Cliff's face, one directly over his eyes, and dig in with vigor. Cliff cries out in surprise, stumbling. Ace and Sabo scrambling back when he comes a little too close, and right there, clinging to the back of a man twice his size, is Luffy, absolutely fuming on their behalf. All of them do nothing but watch, even Ace, and eventually, after maybe a minute or two of Luffy scrabbling at every patch of unprotected skin he can reach, even yanking at that fiery ponytail, Cliff manages to throw him off. Luffy bounces harmlessly off the discolored wood and lands on his feet next to his brothers, unbothered by his bare feet. Damn, he lost his other sandal. Ace finds himself thinking when he spots the boy's empty hands. And between 1 second and the next, Ace's hair and the front of his clothes are suddenly drenched in alcohol. He grimaces, more at the stench than the fact that he had just a bottle emptied on them. It's nothing new to him, but Sabo's shoulder stiffens when they're pressed against Ace's, and Luffy makes a clear sound of disgust and flicks some of the liquid off of his fingers. Cliff's face is red with rage and possibly humiliation. His left eye, the one Luffy hit, squinted, dripping bottle clutched in one hand. You little shit, he growls and takes a menacing step forward. Sabo buries his pipe into his gut. It all descends from there. Patrons from every corner of the shitty little bar shoot to their feet, those who recognize Ace reaching for him, and those who just wanted to fight throwing themselves at whoever's unlucky enough to look at them. Behind him, someone roars. Ace drops to the floor in the blink of an eye and ignores the shadow flying over him. His brothers quickly disappear within the fray. That's fine, they can take care of themselves. He and Sabo have fought several of these guys before, and Luffy's sturdy. No big deal. A chair crashes against the wall above his head. Ace ducks under a wild punch and takes out the perpetrator's knees with his pipe. Some bastard tries grabbing him by his hair. He swings his pipe up where he knows their face will be. It connects with an echoing clang, and he's freed. He scrambles under a table, lets a man too drunk to be fighting ran into the edge, clambers on top of it, slams his fist into a paler man's jaws, and on the other side of the room, Sabo shouts in annoyance. Twisting, Ace avoids the falling body of a man whose head he just bashed over, jumping to the floor and ditching the scene as both table and man tip over with the clatter behind him. It's fine, it's totally fine. He did not mean to knock that guy out so quickly. People get brain damage from that kind of thing, right? Ace swings his pipe down on the elbow of someone trying to attack Sabo from behind. Something cracks and they scream in pain. And Ace decides if they didn't want brain damage, then, well, they should have thought twice about trying to hurt his brothers. Thanks, Sabo pants. Ace nods once and they're off again. He says he got fights like this for the rush, for the feeling of the fire in his veins. It made his body feel like it was made of sparks, unrelenting and unpredictable, and he liked it. Being Sparks was easier than being human, easier than being Ace. When it was just him, and later when he'd barely befriended Sabo, he sought after that feeling because it was the freest he could get. Pounding men older than him into the ground to prove he wasn't just a stupid kid asking stupid questions. Now, as he ducks between the legs and swings his pipe and kicks and claws, Ace doesn't feel like that at all. He feels solid. He realizes because he has people to be solid for. He has brothers that he can't afford to turn into sparks for. 2 little brothers. No matter how much Sabo gets annoyed at him for calling him that way, Ace has a job now, and that's to keep them safe, no matter what. There's no time for sparks anymore. Chancing a brief pause in the fighting, Ace skids to a halt underneath the bar top. Sabo is off to his left in the process of digging his pipe into a man's ribcage, but he can't see. Luffy, where are you? He throws a stool at someone trying to corner him and steals another glance around the room. Half of the men have just started fighting each other. He spots one of Cliff's buddies trapping another guy in a headlock. Cliff himself is on the opposite side of the bar, looking enraged but unable to move, so they have time. Luffy? A high-pitched yell carries over the clamoring voices. Ace snaps his head up just in time to see Luffy launch himself at a bulky man's face, smashing their heads together and sending them both tumbling to the floor. Ace is darting out from his safe spot and pulling Luffy out of the way of a swinging dagger without a second thought. His little brother beams, not batting an eye at the blade buried in wood where his foot had just been a second ago. Ace! Yeah, Ace grumbles. He thinks there might have been dried blood on his ankle. Crouching, Ace points at the 2 men behind Sabo, one gripping a broken chair leg while the other clumsily raises his fist. See those guys trying to get the jump on Bo? Aim practice, go! He slaps Luffy's back, and Luffy rockets forward with a cackle. The 3 go down in a tangle of limbs, one that Luffy has no problem slipping out of. Yeah, it should be fine. Sabo looks a little battered, but no worse for wear. When Luffy sachets over to his side, Sabo gives him a quick but encouraging shake on the shoulder, and Luffy preens. Sabo glances over at Ace, opens his mouth to say something, but then both his and Luffy's grin drop away, and something akin to horror washes over Sabo's face. Behind you! Damning click echoes like lightning in his ears. Rolling around, Ace comes face to face with the barrel of a gun. He's almost tempted to ask why the hell anybody even has a gun. The most anybody's done so far is pull a knife, but his breath catches in his throat. His words die out before they can even get a chance to form. A cold sort of blankness bleeds into his body. as if all his thoughts were drained right out of his head, leaving only white noise behind. They've never had to confront anything like this before. The man holding the gun doesn't seem very confident with it, or if he knows how to use it when sober, he's just too disoriented by the buzz of the alcohol to hold it securely. No, he slurs. I think I've just about had it with you and your bratty bullshit. It'd be so much easier with you gone. Behind him, Sabo and Luffy growl. Hey, don't talk about Ace like that, Luffy snaps. Liv steps out from the crowd to stand beside the armed man. He still feels strangely blank, unable to get his mind working. Reaching out with one large hand, Cliff steadies the gun in the drunk man's hold, adjusted so it's aimed right at Ace's stomach. A painful death, one full of blood, gushing and gushing until there's nothing left, never giving them the chance to run for help, one that's sure to make his brothers watch as he dies. And that's what finally makes fear shoot up Ace's spine like a jolt of electricity. He tries to hide it, the way his muscles tense and his breath hitches, curling his hands into fists to hide the way that they shake. But a wicked smile mars Cliff's face, and he knows he didn't hide it well enough. The drunk man breathes heavily like he's scared. Tired of you, he says nonsensically. Tired of you, I'm tired of all of you. He doesn't seem all there. There's no way any sort of drink could hit him this hard. Not a drunkard like him. What the hell is happening? Around then, the fights haven't stopped. They're the only ones standing still. The other people either too wasted or too caught up in their own fights to care. Someone nearly trips over Ace's entire body, stumbles past when Ace doesn't budge. It all hardly registers. Cliff scowls as someone bumps into his shoulder. His stance shifts. Ace starts to inch to the right. It's further away from his brother, and Cliff follows the movements with his eyes, one brow raising. Over the frantic muttering, Cliff says, "Let's make this quick before anyone else tries to fuck it up." Before he tightens his grip on the drunk man's wrist, Ace watches as he jolts, fingers twitching over the trigger. His eyes widen, his chest goes painfully tight, and he braces. And then his head is hitting rough wooden floorboards, breath escaping his lung, the ceiling light burning into his eyes, and there's a cry, but it's not from him, and he doesn't hurt. He doesn't hurt. What? Somewhere, Sabo screams, "No!" Ace whips his head up, and Luffy hits the ground quietly, stays there. Ace's world turns to static. Getting shot is a strange feeling, Luffy decides. It hurts. He can feel the way it digs into his chest like something sharp and heavy trying to puncture his skin, but nothing being able to make it all the way, curling over and pawing at it like that'll help it get out. It knocks him off balance, and then the pressure disappears and he's falling forward, struck as he is from the fact that he got shot and that he's not dead. It doesn't occur to Luffy to catch himself until his face is already smushed against the floor. He tries rolling over a little, but still, when it makes his chest twinge, that was scary. He wants to move a bit more, wants to get up and make sure his brothers are okay, but his limbs won't listen. It's not good to lay down in the middle of a fight, Luffy knows, especially one with big guys like these, but it's all he can really do. So Luffy settles down and tries to breathe. The pain in his chest makes it hard to draw air. A steady throb right next to his heart. His hearing's a little fuzzy too. Hearing's super important, Ace Sabo had told him, so he needs to wait until he gets that back. Till then, and until the ache in his chest dies down, he'll wait. He's screaming around him, Luffy thinks. It's distant and muffled, taking his time breathing back in, but he can tell. It starts high, and then it gets deep, and there might be some crashing, and then it's high again, and then it's back to deep. It'd be silly if any of those big girly guys had a super high voice. The thought makes Luffy feel a little better, but Luffy also knows that he and his brother were the smallest ones there, and then the battle cries sound anything like the cries he's hearing right now. Luffy can recognize his brother's voice anywhere, even when his ears aren't working all the way. They're safe and protective and angry, but Luffy's hearing clears a bit more, and they're also hurting. Why are they hurting? Oh, they're... You... dead. You... fucking kill you. Get up. Ah, that's Ace, but Luffy's never heard him sound like that before. That means he probably should listen. And if he tries, he swears, but not even his arms will listen. It's not like he's scared either, it's just something that feels close to it. Get up, get up, get up! There's a dull thud. Deeper, scratchier voice cries out, maybe in pain, and Luffy realizes that Ace must not be talking to him. Still, he's waited long enough and his hearing is a lot better, so it's time to get up. He needs to fix whatever's hurting his brothers. Setting his jaw, Luffy tries to push himself up with his arm. His chest still hurts, but it's slightly easier to breathe when he's not lying on his front. He stops when he gets to his elbows, grimacing at the foreign feeling of pulsing pain, and lifts his head. There are a lot less people fighting than there were before Luffy got hit. Just a few feet away lies an unconscious man with blood running from somewhere under his hair. It's not an unusual sight, so Luffy redirects his gaze to the mill's room. He blinks. Ace and Sabo are furious. They're fighting with a rage-fueled sort of violence he's never seen before. Blood is spattered along both of their pipes and a bit on their shirts. Ace even has some on his face. The men that aren't meeting them head-on cower at the force of their anger. Luffy watches Ace hurl a chair at someone's head, watches as Sabo throws a punch with a strained yell even though he hardly ever fights like that. Watches as a certain sort of darkness bleeds into their eyes. Then Luffy looks around himself. The circle surrounding him looks strangely empty of anything but bloodstains. Ah, Luffy thinks, bringing a trembling hand to the achy spot next to his heart. That's what's hurting them. He gets that. It really hurt. Luffy opens his mouth to call out, but the words get caught up all the way, and all that comes out is a small weird noise. Ace and Sabo whipped their heads around like he screamed their names. That invasive darkness in their eyes burns up in the same manner as paper catching fire. Luffy! His brothers immediately abandon their fight, breaking away to scamper towards him. Luffy starts to smell, starts to reach out, and a boot stomps down, nearly missing his hand. He jolts back. You're still alive. Luffy narrows his eyes. Blood is dripping into one of them, and various other cuts and bruises littering the rest of his body. It's nice to know that he's still having trouble against Ace and Sabo. Fine, then. I'll just have to be more thorough this time. You seem like the perfect thing to use to get to those brats. Luffy points the gun at his head, and Luffy freezes. The cold feeling he hates so much crawls into his veins. He doesn't know if the first time was just chance. He doesn't know if getting shot in the head will do something getting shot in the chest didn't. It shouldn't, right? It shouldn't. The gun presses closer, clicks right next to his ears, and it shouldn't. There's a furious yell, and Luffy flinches at his ear, piercing bang that follows. But it doesn't hurt. His ears are ringing again, but the only source of pain is still just his chest. Feeling his eyes open, Luffy peeks out from under his bangs, but all he sees are pale hands and a blue shirt and a glimpse of a pipe. Sabo. Luffy perks up, wincing only a little at the ache. Sabo's here. His hand is really tight on Luffy's arm, but it's okay. But if Sabo's here, then where's... The ringing disappears. Do you hear me? If you ever try to touch my brothers again, I'll fucking murder... Please, Luffy says. It's a little wobbly and strange, but it gets his attention all the same. Ace's head jerks up from where he's bent over at the feet of Cliff, hands fisted tightly in the collar of the man's shirt. His eyes grow wide, and for a second he just stares, scanning over at Luffy's body with a single-minded focus. He glances up at Sabo, then finally drops Cliff, leaving him to bleed on the dirty floor. Stumbles over some with much less confidence than he had just a moment ago. Luffy. Ace breathes like he just finished running up and down the mountain twice over. Luffy. Luffy, holy shit, Luffy. Sabo scrambles to his feet. He tries to drag Luffy up with him, and Luffy does his best to follow. His chest is starting to feel a little better. We need to go, Sabo rambles. It is not safe here. It's not. Go. We need to go. Luffy is scooped into Ace's arms when he fails to get up fast enough, and then they're sprinting out of the bar. Finally. It's out there now. His brothers run all the way through Terminal and into the forest, their panting breaths being the only thing to fill the silence the entire time. That's okay. Even if Luffy wanted to say something, he doesn't think he'd know what it'd be. They stop next to a thick tree. Ace lets him down, and the three of them stand there, staring at each other and trying to ignore the ache in their skin. Luffy feels like he's buzzing. He looks down at his hands, sees the way they shake, and even when he clenches them into fists, the buzzing travels from his hands up to the rest of his body. His breath leaving him in a jittery exhale that even goes up to his throat, sealing it shut no matter how hard he swallows. He tries to take a deep breath like Sabu taught them, tries to take another. This part next to his heart prickles. He coughs a little, his eyes burn. That was scary, Luffy chokes out, and now that he said it, he can't help the tears that start to fall. That was scary, Luffy wails. I didn't know it would do that. I thought I was gonna die. Ace yanks him into his arms. He cuts off with a squeak. Sabo joins them in the blink of an eye. Oh my god, Sabo mutters, voice thick. Oh my god, we thought you were dead. We thought he killed you, Luffy. Oh my. He suddenly pulls away, lifting Luffy's shirt with frantic movements. You're not hurt, are you? You're okay, no bleeding. Luffy sniffles and nods, taking Sabo's attention with as much grace as someone in his circumstances can. It hurts just a little. I'm okay. And he is okay. There's a bruise right in the middle of his chest, dark and ugly, but the only specks of blood on him are from cuts on his arms and face, accumulated before the gun was even drawn. But he is okay. He's okay. He's alive. Ace has never been so scared in his life. Watching Luffy fall like that, like all the life had been snatched right out of him, was terrifying. He fell and didn't move, and looked for all the world like Cliff had just killed him, just shot him right in his little chest and smiled about it. If Ace had been a bit more rational, he might have slowed down to check, look a little closer at the wound, see if there was any metallic smell, but he wasn't, and he didn't. All he could think looking at Luffy's crumpled body was, his little brother is dead. He saw red. It's a haze of screaming and white-hot rage after that. The only thing on his mind was hurt. Make them pay for what they did. He vaguely recalls Sabo joining them at some point, but Ace had been far too gone to care. But by the time Luffy's small voice dragged him back to a reality, a beacon shining through the inky black of his mind. There was blood on his clothes and bodies at his feet. He can't really bring himself to care. He still can't. Anyone who tries to kill his brother deserves nothing less. If he drops, sitting clumsily on the grass floor and rubbing his fists in his eyes, Sabo quickly falls, reaching out for Luffy like he'll die if he doesn't have him in his arms in the next 5 seconds. Ace wants to follow, really, but... If you thought you were going to die, he says, a little distance to his own ears. Why did you do that? Sabo hands still in Luffy's hair, and Luffy just looks up at him with those big, colorless eyes, like he doesn't understand why Ace would even think to ask that. Why wouldn't I? Luffy replies. His voice is still wobbly with fading nerves and tears, but it's no less sure. Why would you? Ace can't help but ask, even though he has a feeling he knows the answer. Luffy sniffs. I was scared, but I knew I had to do it. Poking at the bruise, he says, with a complete and damning sort of certainty. I couldn't let Ace die. If it meant it was me instead. That's okay. Ace's knees hit the ground hard enough to sting. He grabs Luffy by the shoulder and wrenches him around so they're facing each other fully, and Sabo lets him. His twin almost looks sick. What's wrong with you? Ace chokes out. Luffy blinks. What? Luffy, you... Stammering, Ace tries to find the right words. He can hardly speak through the knot in his throat. He feels wretched. Luffy, don't say that. Don't ever fucking say that. Why not? It's so honest it hurts. Ace opens his mouth. You can't die for me, he wants to say. I can't lose you. Sabo can't lose you. We'll die if we lose you. It's all there on the tip of his tongue, but it won't come out. It never comes out. Ace wants to claw at his throat until it's red and raw and force the words into reality. He almost reaches up to do it. Sabo quietly pulls Luffy a little closer, giving Ace a look. Luffy follows easily, leaning into his touch. We're supposed to protect you, Lou, says Sabo. His voice is subdued. Luffy tilts his head. And we saw you fall. Sabo purses his lips. We can't let you die. That's what big brothers are for. They really are twins. Sabo always knows what Ace is trying to say. Luffy, despite it all, still has it in him to pout like a baby. That's not fair. He pulls away, crossing his arms, and Ace tries to resist the urge to pull him back. If you can do it, why can't I? That's stupid. I thought you understood. Sabo sighs. Luffy, hate being alone. Smothered, but it wouldn't have made much of a difference if Luffy had shouted it in their faces. A knot forms in Ace's gut, churning with guilt because that's true. That's true, and Ace knows it, and Sabo knows it, yet here they are. The only thought Ace had upon realizing he was about to be shot in the stomach was that he wished it would happen somewhere his brothers couldn't see. That's all that needs to be said about him, isn't it? He was going to leave them behind. It's the entire reason Luffy, selfish as he'll always be, jumped to take the bullet for him. Not even letting himself turn into sparks again would have had him burning with shame the way he is right now. How many times must he screw up? I hate being alone, Luffy repeats, more emphatically, more desperate. Ace is important to me, and Sabo too. You're my brothers. If you died and I didn't even try to do anything. There's a pause as he hiccups, swallows thickly. I'd regret it forever. You understand, don't you? Because you're always trying to do it. Ace looks down. He hates that he does. It's so stupid. Ace is always getting himself hurt to protect me. Sabo's always tried to protect me. If you won't let me protect you back, why do it at all? I'm sorry, okay? Ace bites out. Worry has always made him snappy. I'm sorry for forgetting, but you can't do something like that again. Do you understand me? Me and Sabo. Luffy bristles. Ace and Sabo can't protect me if they're dead, he cries. I don't want to be the only one left. I already told you I'd rather die. Sabo surges forward, snatching Luffy up. Ace doesn't realize he's following behind until he already had his arms wrapped around his brothers, clutching them tightly. Luffy's hands twist into the fabric of their shirt, pressing close even though it has to hurt the bruise on his chest, but he doesn't so much as whimper about it. He buries his face in his big brother's shoulders, wetting them with tears. Ace doesn't dare pull away. Okay, Sabo murmurs, sounding wet. We got it, Lou. I'm sorry. We won't leave you alone, okay? Okay, Luffy mumbles. You gotta promise you won't leave us alone either, okay? Got it? Okay, we can do that. Okay, good. Ace drinks in their voices, the feeling of their hands wrapped in his shirt. He's already memorized everything there is to know about their appearances, but he drinks that in too, just to be sure he has their features down to the very last delicate line. Luffy smiles when Ace runs his fingers through his bangs so he can get a better look at his face. Messy and tear-stained as it is, and it's baffling. It's baffling how he can still remain so happy after all they've put him through. How he can still find pleasure in the little things, how he can find safety in their touch. Luffy got shot today, and yet, by some insane miracle, he's sitting here in front of them with nothing but a bruise, already showing hints of that bright smile he'd worn before everything, all because of a few choice words, literally all because of a single sentence. He's so simple. It's something Ace can hardly understand. For a long time, they sit there in the forest, leaning against each other and waiting to feel normal again. At one point, Sabo taps his finger against the back of Luffy's neck to make him giggle. His feet, which are a little cut from rough concrete and floorboards, are finally tended to. It helps Ace feel a little less weighed down, like there isn't a promise with the weight of the universe in his pocket. And then Luffy, sleepy after they managed to wrangle themselves back into normal blaze again, says, "I'm not sorry about jumping in front of Ace, but I'm sorry for making him mad." "It's okay, we get it," says Sabo. They're all piled against the thick tree, slouched in its roots with Luffy in the middle, Ace and Sabo leaning their heads against his. "We were just scared, you could say. I couldn't be mad at you for wanting to protect Ace. Worried sick, but not mad." His tone becomes exasperated when he adds, "You said it yourself that we'd do the same." Luffy snickers. "Just don't do it again and we'll be fine." Ace grumbles. Luffy only blows a raspberry, but he doesn't have anything to say. He already made a promise, and he never breaks a promise. His laughter has Ace feeling a little more human. For a second, Ace is reminded of the cluster of flowers they saw right as they were entering Edgetown. Their vibrant colors, a spot of light in the gloomy streets, peeking through the drear like the street's own little beacon, a sliver of perseverance. "You'd think in a shithole like this they wouldn't even come out of the ground," he'd said. Ace glances at his brothers. A beacon, a sliver of perseverance. Luffy's stomach crumbles. Sabo rolls his eyes, looking softer than ever. If Ace really thinks about it, he has a few things like that in his life. But he's never really been one for sappy metaphors. "Let's go hunt then. How's Bear sound?" Rising to his feet, Ace turns to glance over his shoulder. It hardly occurs to him to run off like he used to. "Luffy, you're staying on the sidelines for today." "Oh, what? It's just a bruise." Sabo pats his back. "Would you rather tear your feet back open and get an infection?" Luffy pouts, but doesn't object further. Ace catches the way it turns into a smile when Sabo laughs. Then Luffy looks at Ace, and that stupid smile grows even wider when Ace doesn't quite manage to turn away in time. Whatever, he's not too bothered this time, as long as Luffy can still smile. If the thought of 3 little flowers make the promise in his pocket feel more like comforting reassurance, then no one has to know. His brothers are alive, and they'll always fight to be okay. And that's all that matters. Good night, my sweet and sweet little souls.